Yeah, Katie, and notably, it's the bipartisan lawmakers, including those Republicans, from a pair of key committees, both the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, the top Republican and Democrat on both of those panels, coming out with statements after that Washington Post story published, saying they are demanding oversight of what had happened in the Caribbean. I want to read to you some of their statements because I think that they really are powerful. First, for the House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mike Rogers and Ranking Member Adam Smith, they said the committee is committed to providing rigorous oversight of the Department of Defense's military operations in the Caribbean. Senator Roger Wicker, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and Senator Jack Reed, he's the ranking member of that panel, issuing a similar statement saying, quote, the committee is aware of the recent reports regarding the follow-on strikes on suspected narcotics vehicles. They say the committee has directed inquiries to the department and we will be conducting vigorous oversight to determine the facts related to the circumstances. So, Katie, leaving no question there that these four key lawmakers, again, they are in charge of the committee that oversees the armed services, are very concerned by these reports of those boat strikes, and they are efforting more information and investigations right now.
So what authority do they have to get more information? I mean, if they ask the Pentagon for more information, are they going to get it?
Oh, right. Well, these committees, they have subpoena power for the majority of the committees, and they can subpoena information. They can threaten to bring some of these officials in front of the panels to ask them questions under oath. They could write letters requesting more information. There are a lot of different avenues that these panels can take. Members of Congress are returning back into the Capitol today after taking that Thanksgiving recess off, and we know that this report came out during that Thanksgiving recess. So our team will be asking these four members of Congress and others what avenues they can take and what recourse there is to find answers. Because it's not just these four, it's those members you played in the introduction. There's a lot of concern on both sides of the aisle, and these panels are committing to finding the information.
General McCaffrey, if they wanted more information, what sort of logs does the Pentagon have? Verbal logs, audio logs, recordings? Would there be a verbal or a log of Pete Hegseth's verbal order to kill everybody? What information could they access?
Well, 100% for sure, there is a record of who said what when. We have to assume there will be an investigation, hopefully in the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Roger Wicker and Jack Reed, to get at the bottom of this. But look, the bottom line is the alleged incident of killing the last two survivors was quite clearly an illegal order. Quite clearly a war crime if it occurred the way we're being told. That admiral who accepted the verbal order from Secretary Hegseth will also be held responsible for passing it on. So they've got to get to the bottom of this. We simply can't have the equivalent of a Nazi submarine in World War II machine gunning the survivors of a torpedoed ship. That's the equivalent statement. But, Katie, the big problem is, where is Congress, Article 1, use of force? What are we trying to achieve in Venezuela? It's clearly not a counter-drug operation. There's 15,000 of the most sophisticated troops and naval vessels and aircraft and the U.S. inventory down there, entirely unsuited for anything except destroying an enemy armed force. So Congress must get involved. This is completely out of control.
According to reports revealed by the Washington Post, U.S. military operations in the Caribbean are not only targeting drug boats. Allegedly, defenseless survivors in the water are also being targeted. This is not just tough action. It has the potential to be an outright war crime. Understand the seriousness of the matter from this. Even Republicans in Congress are waiting for a response from the Pentagon. Names like Mike Rogers and Roger Wicker, Republicans at the top of this business, want an investigation into what is going on here. At this point, I would ask you to pause, like the video, and subscribe to the channel, because we must continue to discuss these realities that the mainstream media glosses over. Let's get to the military and legal aspects of the matter. The situation is much more dire than you might think. Did you hear what retired General Barry McCaffrey said on the broadcast? He compared this situation to Nazi submarines during World War II, mowing down survivors from torpedoed ships with machine guns. It's shameful that an American general has to resort to comparing his own army's actions to Nazi tactics. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is said to have given verbal orders. Maritime law and the Geneva Conventions are clear. You cannot kill people who have surrendered or pose no threat. But it seems that for the Trump administration, international law and American military ethics are just a set of old-fashioned rules that get in the way. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt came out defending this brutality, saying, "These are narco-terrorists. The president has the authority. They think that by slapping the terrorist label on them, they can legitimize any kind of lawlessness." What's truly frightening is the bigger picture. They have nearly a third of the U.S. Navy amassed off the coast of Venezuela. The most sophisticated warships cannot be there just to chase a few drug boats. This clearly smells like preparations for a regime change, something Marco Rubio has been dreaming of for years. Trump was elected on the promise of ending wars, and now he has brought us to the brink of a new quagmire in South America with no end in sight and no strategic objective. What else could this be but a classic Trump maneuver? The situation is a complete fiasco, not just domestically, but internationally as well. Our closest allies, such as the UK and the Netherlands, are reporting that they have stopped sharing intelligence with the US. Can you imagine? The unshakable alliance we call the Five Eyes is cracking because of Trump's lawlessness. Our allies fear that the information they share will be used in illegal executions. Trump set out saying, "America first," but he has turned the country into Lone America. It is only a matter of time before we abandon our role as the world's policeman and become a rogue state that does not follow the rules. The fact that a partner like the UK does not trust us is a much greater threat to our national security than a few boats in Venezuela. Let's also look at the enormous inconsistency in domestic policy. What did Trump say throughout his campaign? "I will end endless wars. I will bring our children home." He convinced his voters of this. So what do we see now? A massive military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. His MAGA base thought they were against globalist interventions, but the Trump administration is now pursuing regime change, the dream of the neocons, the war hawks. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's aggressive interventionist style has completely undermined Trump's supposed isolationist promises. He is not even honest with his own voters. While saying he will bring peace, he is dragging the country into a new Vietnam in South America. But the height of hypocrisy is definitely the Honduras issue. The administration is shooting unnamed boats at sea, calling them narco-terrorists, and carrying out extrajudicial executions, right? The justification? The fight against drugs. So what is the same administration preparing to do? Pardon Honduras's former president, Juan Orlando Hernandez. This man is a certified drug lord who collaborated with El Chapo, flooded U.S. streets with tons of cocaine, and was sentenced to 45 years in prison by our courts, blowing up Marines at sea with missiles while pardoning a drug lord in a suit. This is not a war on drugs. This is purely an arbitrary and immoral show of force. The U.S. Navy's massive show of force has completely cornered us strategically. As Ravi Agarwal also noted in his analysis, if the Trump administration backs down now, Maduro will turn to his people and say, "Look, I stood up to the world's greatest superpower and pushed them back." While Trump wants to weaken Maduro, he risks unwittingly turning him into a hero among his own base. It's hard to believe that a man who claims to be a great negotiator would put himself in such an amateurish predicament. He will either start a bloody intervention that will set the region ablaze, or he will grease the dictator's bread and tail between his legs. There is no middle ground. Let's also put aside this war on drugs fairy tale. According to statistics, Venezuela isn't even the main source of drugs entering the U.S. The data is clear. Other countries are much bigger suppliers. If their real concern were substances poisoning the American people, they wouldn't be talking about pardoning Honduran drug lords. This operation has nothing to do with border security or public health. It's entirely about satisfying Trump's ego and implementing the hawks agenda at the State Department. Dragging American soldiers and resources into an adventure with no clear goal, on shaky legal ground, and reeking of pure political spectacle is not patriotism. It's recklessness. As a result, friends, we are faced with a series of unlawful orders, broken alliances, and illogical pardons. Congress, both Democrats and sensible Republicans, must urgently say stop to this course of action, because the brakes at the White House have failed. If we do not defend our values and the law, there will be no America left to defend. To closely follow this chaotic agenda, hear what the mainstream media won't say, and keep speaking the truth, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. With your support, we will continue to make our voices heard.